The more you give, the more you get. Hey guys, thanks for joining me this week. I'm super excited to introduce you to my guest. Her name is Cheryl Borland, and she works for Griesing Law, and she is a trust and estate attorney. So join me in welcoming Cheryl. We're so glad to have you here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Monica, for having me.
For sure. So, let me tell you guys a little bit about Cheryl and what she does. She works in business law. She's an advocate for women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, LGBTQ plus, and veteran-owned businesses. And so she's really probably our DEI expert, is what I would call you. But talk to me a little bit about your career and what you guys do.
So I am a practicing attorney for nearly 30 years, non-traditional student, and I went to law school with the view of working in the corporate world. I was not a litigator, but I've seen a lot of litigation. So I know how to advise my clients as they start and grow their business, how to keep themselves out of trouble as much as they can. And then within the diverse owned space, there are certain nuances within your organizational documents that you have to have when you start and as you grow so that you don't inadvertently blow your certification, because that's very much tied up into the valuation and that value add for your business itself.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. So I am one of those late bloomers, and I'm obviously a minority owned or woman owned business. And I, didn't have the luxury or benefit or take all of those opportunities to advise with someone such as yourself, but kind of did it the hard way and figured it out myself. So I'd probably be a really great client for you. But talk to me a little bit about some of the things that you guys are able to advocate for women on, and how you are able to do that, and kind of how you work with women in a variety of capacities in helping them.
Well, we work in a variety of capacities. Some are just purely legal, making sure that the legal documents are properly done, making sure that you're not going to run into an issue when you apply for your certification, because there are certain things that are either registered with the state where you're domiciled or within your organizational documents itself, that if you are not working with someone that is experienced within the certified and certification process, can inadvertently trip you up. And now, because everything is done electronically on the platform, if you inadvertently misidentify something within your documents, or there's something that you missed, it's an automatic technical denial, and you have to wait another 6 months before you can reapply for certification.
Wow. So that's huge. So I had an interesting debacle that I've shared a little bit about in past episodes, but during when we were all, worried about PPP and we were in the shutdown and all of those things, and I ended up going through the SBA to try to work on, my business loan and things like that. And I got tripped up because when I put my documents in and my application in, I put a comma and a period. It was, the name of my business, comma, Inc., period. Well, my bank statements don't have the comma and the period on them because the bank only has X amount of characters allowed. And that caused me to have a technical trip up that was like ongoing forever. So, it is little things like that can definitely, using someone with your service or, your capabilities to have that trained eye can help guide you better than trying to just figure it out yourself. So I can absolutely relate to that. So, Cheryl, you mentioned to me earlier that you're involved with Elevate and have been involved with them for quite some time. I have actually been a squad leader for some Elevate groups over during the pandemic time, and really found them beneficial. Talk to me a little bit about what you do with Elevate and how you've been working with them.
So I have been involved with the Cincinnati chapter for about 10 years.
Oh,
I
wow.
started as a board member. I have been the co-president here in Cincinnati for the last probably 7 or 8 years, and have helped to guide our chapter to become something other than just one of the other women's groups in the community. I think
Mhm.
one planning session we just jotted down off the top of our heads the numbers of women's groups within just our region, and the numbers are astronomical. But one of the things that's very unique about Elevate, it is a global women's network. It's not a networking organization, it is a network. And because we had been very purposeful in our planning and the types of programming that we did here in Cincinnati, when everything shut down and everything went to Zoom, all of our board meetings were held by Zoom. All of our chapter events were held by Zoom. And we continued our programming, actually amped it up. We added more programming because it was easier to do. We could all do it by Zoom. And we had women across the globe that would routinely come in and visit the Cincinnati chapter events because we were still doing programming. Some of the chapters pulled back, some of the chapters really struggled with that, but we ramped it up. And now we're transitioning to some more live events, but we've had a request from other members that became part of our quasi members here in Cincinnati from afar to continue to do things online so that they could continue to participate. And one of our leadership person there in New York, he would hold up the Cincinnati chapter as an example for the kinds of programming and opportunities that the other chapters could kind of mimic and follow along.
So that's great. So I've joined several women's groups, a variety of them, just kind of in my entrepreneur, journey. And I really enjoyed the Elevate squads and all of the things I got. I met some amazing women. So you guys are doing some amazing work. And you're right, it is a network. And I still get the emails. And I had to take a pause just because I had too many projects going on.
Yes.
And so I had to allocate my time accordingly. But it's something that I really very much enjoy being a part of. And it is a great networking group for women. So I am in agreement with you in that it is a really great community, if you will.
It actually was one of the very first women's organizations started. It started in New York a little over 30 years ago by Janet Hansen, who was a financial advisor with Goldman Sachs. And she was trying to create, there was no resources for women, female investment advisors within New York or anywhere else. So she created 85 Broads. And, it was kind of kitschy because, it started the conversation. It's like, oh, it's a women's group. We called it Broads. But it was, Goldman Sachs was located at 85 Broad Street in New York. And then ultimately sold it to Sally Krawcheck, who rebranded it as Elevate, and it's with two L's. So it's the female pronoun in French as Elevate, and has continued to amplify, launch it, building up the various chapters across the global economy. So it's designed to meet the needs of any woman wherever she is in her business journey. And one of the advantages of being able to program at a local level is we can meet the individual needs that we identify within our community. There is no one size fits all when it comes to the programming. So making sure that we are very intentional to meet the needs of whoever that we are working with. And then this year, as we started to roll back into having live events, because of my involvement with Xavier University here in Cincinnati and Chase Law School, Salmon P. Chase Law School in affiliated with Northern Kentucky University and their Center for Entrepreneurship, we have created a student type membership to engage women that are going through the business school or through the law school to get them engaged earlier in the process within our Elevate chapter to meet their needs, to provide some mentoring, mentee process. But that, quite frankly, that mentee mentor process goes both ways. There's a lot of things that these very, very impressive young women that are starting their career can teach the old guard like me new things and how to be innovative and how to be experiential and how to take a view of business with a different lens.
For sure, for sure. So I found that interesting when you said that it was started in New York, and if interesting enough, interestingly enough, my squad was a lot of financial women, in the financial world. And that's something that I loved. I had, it doesn't matter, I don't think personally, my opinion, what field you're in. But I think nothing terrible ever comes by a gathering of women. And so there's so much in that, right? There's so much connectivity, and it really fills your connection cup and need, but it also, gives you room to realize that regardless of what sector you work in for work, whatever your job is, that there's still nuances and there are still things that we all face, and they're similar underlying, right? And so I think that that connection and the ability for, what Elevate has done has been really remarkable, and I've thoroughly enjoyed each time I've participated.
Absolutely. And within Elevate, within the world of WeBank, uh, in the partner organizations, which are the smaller groups. So where I sit in Cincinnati, we are part of Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, which is WeBank ORV, Ohio River Valley. But within the world of WeBank, there are 14,000 certified women-owned businesses across the country.
Wow.
And that number grows every day. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of programming within those organizations, regionally as well as national events. And as I have been involved in both WeBank and Elevate for close to the last 10 years, particularly, one of the things that I noticed among women in business is that we are very motivated to work with each other. We build our network and we build our villages and we build our connective tissue with regard to whatever we're doing in whatever phase we are in our lives. But women, more than minority, more than veterans, more than LGBTQ, women will go out of their way to make an introduction and connection for you. And if you are, and I have been at conferences where I was having a conversation with someone and they said, oh, well, you need to talk to so-and-so at XYZ company. And then they look across the room and they say, oh, there she is. Took me by the hand across the room and made the live introduction. It's not one of those, you shouldn't just meet or you should talk to. They will go out of the way to make that connection. And women, I don't really know why that is, but women find a way. And my philosophy, in addition to you give what you get, is also there are no accidental meetings and there is no accidental coincidences. There's a reason that we meet people across our journey. And one thing always leads to another. And eventually it comes back around.
Mhm.
Um,
That's a great point. That's a great point. I believe the same. I think, I've been in touch with such a variety of women. I met women of all types through Elevate in the past years when I participated. And it's been really amazing to see, their journeys. And, one woman was launching her own skincare line, and I've watched her, and now she's up for several awards and really prosper. And it's just been, I didn't stay in touch with my squad like I should have, but I got a lot from that, and got a lot from, even though they were outside of my wheelhouse of my career, sector. There was so much crossover for all of us when in what we're trying to do. And you're right, women, I think we naturally, I never meet a stranger. So, I'm going to talk to anybody. I remember my kids being little and being in the grocery store, and they were like, I was talking to the person in the line in front of me, and they were like, do you know them, Mom? And I'm like, well, we do now. So I think that's natural for us to want to help. And I, really have been a curator for authenticity. And that's something that's really important to me and my brand personally, is to show up who you are, how you are, whatever that looks like. And, I've talked to so many people. I have had a ton of guests on my show, and I've learned something from each and every one of them. But, I had somebody on recently, we did an episode about grief, and we were talking about how life is about abundance and loss and abundance and loss. And, it's really helped me put things into different perspectives than I would have had I not met her. And so, I'm very much a fan of that. Are you seeing a lot or getting a lot of requests or interaction in regards to DEI? I know during the pandemic, it just really became everybody's doing DEI. And I've had folks, we've taken our own course on my team. Obviously, we were able to do one through a local school that certified us, which was great. We took advantage of that during the pandemic. And then I hear a lot of talk and you see positions being created. And, I'm just curious. I've been thinking about this for a while and haven't talked to anyone about it, but I'm curious if you're seeing a lot of it come from top down or bottom up or kind of all in between.
It used to come, there was an overarching mandate for DEI, but during the course of the pandemic, it became much more systemic. It became from the bottom up. It was a lot more. There was a lot more growth at the grassroots level, at the
Mhm.
at the employee level, first level management. Uh, our firm does a number of presentations for um, corporations that we represent or corporations that we come into contact with to our various connections within their legal department or within the management team on the DEI piece of it. Um, and then following up with there's an issue, we do internal investigations and making sure that these investigations are done appropriately and making sure that those things are remedied. The firm was started as an employment and litigation firm primarily. I joined them 5 years ago and brought my transactional practice in, but always with the view towards DEI, um, always with a view for education. So we individually and as a firm do a number of workshops and presentations and speaking engagements and conferences on um, DEI. We do them on certified businesses, how to certify, how to grow and leverage your business. Um, and then within the legal community, which shame on the legal community, we're just as bad as anyone else, quite frankly. And the American Bar Association did a survey on bullying and bias within the legal community, and those numbers and those statistics were abysmal. So we all there's always room for improvement for anyone, regardless of where you are in that DEI journey. But one of the things that we work with is our corporate clients is how to build that culture, how to become aware of the potential issues that you're going to come across, and making sure that your HR and your policies and procedures are adequate to meet the needs of when things don't go right and when there are
Yeah.
issues.
Which will surface at some point for
Mhm.
everyone. It just happens.
Yes,
It's part of business.
that thing's always surfaced, and we can't make anyone bulletproof, but it all comes with education and awareness, and a willingness to learn. Uh, One of Brene Brown's quotes that I love is, "We can't always be right, but we're not always going to be right, but we want to be right." Something to that effect.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
we can
That
always
makes a lot of sense.
yeah, we can always learn. And I probably
Yeah.
just slaughtered her quote, but that
You know
that
what? You gave it a good
awesome.
hard effort. I knew what you meant.
Yeah.
So listen, I love hearing that you guys do at Griesing, that you do seminars and things. If people that are listening wanted to dial in or be able to learn to be able to learn from you guys and see some of the workshops you're doing and stuff, how do they best do that? Where do you guys market or advertise those?
We advertise within the organization to actually host us, but it on all of our on our website underneath all of our profiles, there is a section on where we are going to be. So if I'm speaking at a WeBank conference or a WeBank ORB conference, it'll say on my calendar events, Cheryl Borland will be presenting whatever workshop or where any of us are.
Okay.
And then if there's anyone that would want us to come in and do a workshop or Zoom in, we've done some Zoom presentations for companies that had legal departments that were spread across a number of states, where we came in and Zoomed in at lunchtime, presented a CLE or presented a topic depending on what they needed to comply with for CLE certification or not. But we're always willing to be part of the educators and facilitators for the advancement of the DEI within corporate America.
That makes sense. That's awesome. Well, listen, is there anything else you want to share with our listeners today?
No, I'm honored and pleased to be here. work with my clients to get size and scale. There's some nuances in those. So
For sure.
creating that supply chain solution, which we've realized that, and everyone has realized the problem with some of the approaches we were taking to supply chain, and how that now that the COVID has hit, and supply chain has really kind of struggle underneath the weight of that, then the need to advance uh, and engage smaller owned companies within our local regions in order to eliminate or prevent some of those supply chain interruptions, and making sure that they're prepared for that.
That's huge. That's really huge. So for sure. Well, listen, I think we're going to wrap up this week's call. Thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed talking with you and hope to have you back someday. And I definitely will be going to check out your workshops and see what you're doing. So it's been such a pleasure speaking with you today.
Absolutely, Monica. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
You too. Thanks, guys. We'll be back soon. Take care.